Welcome to Othman's Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Reda Othman. By the end of this episode, you will know how to build something that outlasts your direct involvement. And we have a very special guest with us to guide the way. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Amy Roque. Dr. Roque is the Academic Director of Early Childhood Education at Holyoke Public Schools in Massachusetts. Amy, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So, very excited about this episode and looking forward to hearing your insights. And my first question is, what's one belief about leadership you held early in your career that turned out to be wrong?
Yeah. So when I first, think of this question, I think about, I used to think that the leaders had all the answers. They were the go-tos. They were the ones that were, the ones that could answer any problem. And, I could go to them. And as I started growing in my field as a teacher and then went into a director role and then an academic director role, I realized that it's not all the leaders in these roles that have the answers. It really is that the collaboration, and it's them listening and asking good questions and trusting others' experiences and reaching out to their team members. And so, and that collaboration piece is really important because it's not just that one person that has the answer. And so when I think back, I think back that, when I would probably go to my supervisor and they would say, I'll get back to you on that, it was probably them collaborating with another fellow manager or principal and trying to get the answers. So early on in my career, I used to think they had all the answers, but really it's not that way. It's not knowing about everything. It's about knowing who can, kind of figure out how to bring out the best in others.
And I love that when you go to someone and ask them a question, and sometimes they say, I will get back to you. Sometimes we get angry. And I think if we flip the script, even a leader, he would share this with their team and say, I don't have all the answers. It's a culture of collaboration. And when I say I will get back to you, I'm also collaborating with another leader. I think that's very powerful. And I think what it would do is get the buy-in from the team, which is very important.
Agreed. Yes, totally agree.
Yeah. What is one thing leaders constantly underestimate when they launch a new initiative?
Well, I think something that you just said about, the buy-in is getting the buy-in from the people that you do the work with and having them understand the rationale or the reasoning behind, the why something is maybe, changing or, why we need to make adjustments to a policy or even if there's a change in curriculum or there's a change in operational plans or operational, hours or what have you. I think it's really just getting others to participate and having their voice in the process and also just letting them know that their opinion matters, their voice matters. And so I think you're right on with what you just said with having that buy-in, because it's not just this sole person, this sole figure making a decision, this group of chiefs or a board of directors making decisions. You really need to include so many different individuals when making a change. So I think that is very important and something that it took me a while in my career to learn, but I have learned how important that is.
That's so great. And I like the examples that you shared, Amy. Sometimes it's change in operation, sometimes curriculum, and there is always a change, whether it's federal mandate, whether it's a state mandate or district mandate, the superintendent has a new vision for continuous improvement, for example, and we are constantly changing. And how would you communicate this with the
Yeah.
buy-in? That's very powerful. How do you influence people you don't have authority over?
So I'm all about relationships and
Mm,
building trust. And I like to get to know people in other departments and what their role is. I think that we all are working towards the same goal. Specifically, currently just we're working for kids and families, and so I think it's building those relationships, and their job is just as important as my job, and it's just a different way that they're doing the work, but we're all doing the same work. And I think it's kind of finding that shared purpose, almost like that
mhm,
common ground, and that's where we're working from.
mhm,
So but I really think it starts with relationships, and letting them know that you could be dealing with your maintenance team, and
mhm.
I think it's so important to know who they are, because if we didn't have you, our
Right,
buildings wouldn't function, our schools
right.
wouldn't function, and there's such a valued member of our team. Or if it's somebody who is answering the phone calls from our families every single day, those are the tough calls sometimes to take. They're on that front line, and so I think it's just so important to build that trust that I have faith in you, and just knowing what their role is, and how I can support them in their role.
Mhm. What you just described reminded me of system thinking,
Mm-hmm.
because system thinking, it's all about how the system depend on each other.
Yeah.
You have all the input to have an ideal output, and without that interconnected collaboration with the facility, with the front office, with teachers, with the central office, without genuine collaboration, that ideal output or outcomes that you're looking for
Yeah.
to serve the family and the students, it would be hard to achieve. Uh,
Yeah.
that's very insightful. Thank you. So, what's a partnership or collaboration you built from scratch that became bigger than you expected?
So I think there's what some of us consider something built from scratch could be, as something as just maybe like a family communication log, or
Mhm.
how, as a teacher, I was really big on making sure that my parents knew that I was available to them. And we're talking a long time ago, Reda. This is, when I was a teacher, but I wanted them to know that I was approachable and they could reach out to me. But when I was a center director for a private early education program, we had kind of a consortium with area preschool directors. And, we kind of just in a simple monthly meeting, a check in, and we started talking about pre K teachers and professional development, really geared towards the private sector. And, just on a whim, I was like, wouldn't it be great to just have a conference and bring together a whole bunch of pre K teachers? And from there, Retta, just a simple statement that I made in a very small consortium meeting that
Mhm.
included 7 directors, we ended up creating a pre-K early childhood conference that was almost for 200
Wow.
people. And we
Wow.
had speakers that came, and, and we had, just all types of vendors that came. And we had people even come from, we're in Western Massachusetts, but we had people came busing in from Central
Mhm.
Massachusetts, and it was quite successful. And we held that conference for a couple of years before COVID then hit. But it was so appreciated because it was targeted towards those preschool teachers, that it was really directed at them and their role that they do every single day, because most of
Mhm.
these programs are operated year round. And so I am really proud of that work. And so sometimes I tell people, I'm like, be careful what you say out loud or what you wish for,
Yeah.
because sometimes just a very simple statement or, a simple idea can turn into this really great idea. And, yeah, and that's something that, kind of built from scratch. That was really
Yeah.
just a wonderful, wonderful years long event that we were able to do.
Wow, that's a great, and shout out to you and to them as well. And
Yeah.
I think that's a result of true, authentic collaboration.
Hmm.
That happen when the collaboration is authentic and there is appreciation among the team. I think that
Yeah.
you execute and you are able to plan, share, discuss, and execute the idea if the idea is promising. In that case, it seems like it was wonderful idea that the team executed on. So
Yeah.
shout out to you and the team. So when an initiative starts losing momentum, what is the first thing you look at?
So I look at the people I work with closely. I start gathering kind of like ideas from them. What has changed? Are there new barriers that have come across our way? Is there some data that we didn't collect that we're missing, and maybe that we need to start looking at differently? Or maybe it's our population that we directed this new initiative to, it's no longer servicing their needs. Things
Mm.
change all the time. And, what has worked well for maybe 5, 10 years, sometimes you need to take a step back and say, is this truly what our teachers need, what our families need? Is there something better? So I reach out to the people I work closely with, the ones that have the boots on the ground,
Mhm.
because they're the ones I feel like have the best information. Going back to being collaborative, I don't have all the answers, and I
Mhm.
really try to surround myself with the best people, and people who ask hard questions and will
Mhm.
give me that feedback, because I think that's really important. And also, I think it's really helpful to understand, is this the message that we want to continue with? Is it clear? Is it
Mhm.
meaningful? Is it purposeful for our families, our teachers, etc.?
Excellent. How do you stay connected to the people closest to the work when your role keeps pulling further from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very hard for anyone in any field, but I think sometimes I'm a little bit biased because I'm in education, because there's so many different people that we work with, but I really try to listen and stay present. Sometimes I'll turn off my cell phone. I
Mhm.
schedule meetings with people just to and be like, do you have 15 minutes to just connect? Do I need to make a phone call to you personally? I'm
Mhm.
known for going to people and meeting with them in person, because
Mhm.
I think that really says a lot. And for example, there was a Zoom call last year that happened, and somebody put up a thing, how are you feeling today? And there was like different
Mhm.
emojis to use. And I happened to notice one of the people on my team used like kind of like almost like a sad emoji. And as soon as that meeting was done, I shut down my computer and I ran over to the building where they were at. And they were like, what
Mm.
are you doing here? And I was like, I noticed your sad emoji.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going
Um,
on?
yeah.
And she wrote me back the next day. She said, you have no idea how much that meant to me. And
Yeah.
there was something going on. So we did have to
Mhm.
troubleshoot, and we did have to figure out, and we problem solved, and we got it done. But I think just that being present and
Mhm.
really just, being a great listener, and it's hard to do. But I think when you are a leader, that is something that you have to be, and it's something that you have to continually work at.
Mhm.
So that's really how I see staying that, keep me connected to my
Mhm.
team.
I love the stories that you shared, and I think that I really would assume, based on the research also, that it boosted her emotional health
Uh-huh.
and it boosted her performance. Because
Uh-huh.
if you are down, if you feeling sad, you wouldn't be able to perform. That's it.
Right.
It is as simple as this. And when when you have trust with the people, when
Yeah.
your direct supervisor show care about you, an example that you shared, your performance will likely to increase. So
Yeah.
that's a great. So what are you most looking forward to, Amy?
Well, I always say I never want to stop learning. I
Mm,
want to continue to learn and grow. I do have my doctorate, which I'm so proud of. It was something that I always wanted to achieve, and I did accomplish that. But it doesn't end there. And
mm,
I even remember saying that I had to do a presentation to a couple of people, and I said, "I'm not done. Doesn't mean
mm,
I'm going for another degree, but I'm not done. My learning is never ending. If there's something that I want to learn about, I will go and learn about it. If there's something that needs strengthening, I will go and try to figure out how I can strengthen a certain skill. I jokingly always say to our data team, I'm in awe of them every day, and so I get really excited when I can figure something out on an Excel spreadsheet and I have to share it with the data team because I'm like, it's a
mm,
win. I learned a trick. But I think it's just, I want to continue to build new partnerships and reach out to others and really grow and strengthen the early childhood field,
mm,
and continue to support pre-K teachers, and wherever that may be. I think that they are a very special population. And as a former pre-K teacher, I want to be there for them and advocate for them. So I think that's probably where I'll continue to go. But and
mm,
when you love your job so much, you want to fill in every bucket, every dream that you
mm.
have. But yeah, that's kind of where I think right now the trajectory is. So we'll see. I don't know what the future holds, but we will definitely see.
That's a great. That's a great. Amy, thank you so much. And for everyone who is listening, take something from today and you can implement it right away on tomorrow, on Tuesday. Whether you check on someone to make sure they're okay and you help them navigate a challenge, or you start building authentic collaboration, co creating with the team, and ask good and hard questions, like Amy
Mhm.
said.
Thank you.